Dee from Crystal Crafts with Dee. I have a cross stitch here that I need to wash. It is a stamped cross stitch that I got from VIP Cross Stitch, and I'm really super happy with this. So I'm done with it all, and I'm going to get rid of all this stamping ink on there that is water dissolvable. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So I have this container here. This is just a drawer out of one of my 10 drawer storage container thingies, and I find this is really good because it's nice and shallow, and it fits most of my cross stitches. So this one sits flat, but like I'll have ones that are bigger and I'll sort of fold them over, pop them in there. Yeah, it's nice and easy to use, that sort of thing. So so I've got my bits and pieces there. So I'll pop him over there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that container up with water. So with Joy Sunday, you get these plastic Ziploc bags to put your project in. And on the back there, it gives you instructions on how to wash your cross stitch. So you don't have to wash a cross stitch if you don't want to. If you're happy to have the stamped bit on there, if you have a counted cross stitch and you don't need to wash it, that's fine. And it depends. Sometimes I wash it, sometimes I don't, but if it's stamped, I do. And the instructions on here just tell you to put it in warm water below 30 degrees Celsius for more than 3 hours. Wash it with clean water, dry it, leave it flat, give it an iron. I do that, but I do a little bit different, so I'll show you how I do that. So, why wash your cross stitch? I normally wash it because of the oils that get on your hands, and when you're handling your cross stitch all the time, those oils do transfer onto your cross stitch. Most of the time it's not a problem, but I do like to keep that clean. So even though the instructions there say to use just lukewarm water, I do add just a teeny little bit of detergent just to sort of dissolve some of that oil that you get from your fingers. Like, I wash my hands before I do it, but you just have that natural oil on your fingers. So I'm going to show you how I do this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fill this tub up with lukewarm water and a dash of detergent, and then I'm going to soak it. So I'm just going to pop some water in there, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've got my container full of water, and all I'm going to do is I am just going to pop that in there. And yeah, I've got a bit too much water in there, but anyway, doesn't matter. And then I forgot to add the detergent, so I'll show you how much I pop in. I will be back in another second. Okay, it's good to see I'm nice and prepared. So I'm just going to put like the tiniest amount on there. You don't need a lot. I don't really want lots of bubbles. I've used all kinds of dishwashing detergent. They're all the same. So I'm just going to leave it in there. It says to leave it for 3 hours, but I find that if I leave it in here for about 20 minutes, see how it's going. 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sort of depends on how much ink is on there, but it's already starting to dissolve a little bit down the bottom. So I'm going to let that sit there for a little bit, and every now and then I'll just give it just agitate a little bit, give it a little bit of a rock, just to sort of make sure there's plenty of the soapy water going around it. So I just use the tiniest little bit of detergent. So I'm going to let that sit there for a little while, and then I'll be back to see how it's going. Okay, so this is 10 minutes later, so you can already see that you can see the ink sort of suspended in the water there. So that's actually, that's almost done. So it's pretty quick, isn't it? That's only after 10 minutes. You can see that water's getting quite dirty. So we'll let him soak a little bit longer. Okay, so it's been probably about 25 minutes, And you can see that the color of the water is quite murky. There wasn't a lot of ink on there. You can sort of see it swirling around there. Just having a bit of a look. So that's looking pretty good. I don't know if you can see it there. There's just a teeny bit in this corner here, a little bit there, and just a little bit of that red up the top. And I don't know why, but for some reason, when I wash these cross stitches that are stamped, I seem to have trouble getting rid of all of that red, but we'll see how this one goes. The water's still warm. I might add a little bit more warm water to it, but that's looking pretty good. And then what I'll do is I'll dump that out and put some clean water in. There you go. So I might let that sit for another 5 minutes, and then I'll dump it out and put some clean water in. Okay, so this is probably another 10 minutes after I have just emptied that water out and put some more warm water in. I didn't put as much water in this time because it was a bit of an overkill. And I'll just put it sort of face down because there's not as much water in there. But that's looking pretty darn good. So I'm happy with that. I could let it sit for a little bit longer because I can just see there's a little bit there left and tiny bit across the top. You can just see faint pink. The red, for some reason, I have trouble moving that. But anyway, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to make it go much longer. So very, very happy with that. And that was all like within 30, 35, 40 minutes, something like that. Nice and easy to do. So now that is finished, I have a towel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that guy over there. I'm going to put my towel out. Another reason why it's so handy having little cross stitches. Everything's so much smaller. Smaller towel, smaller container. So I'm just going to let that just drip a little bit. Let's get that excess water off. And then I'm going to plonk it down here. I'm just going to sort of pat it out a bit. So the important thing to do when you're washing your Aida cloth is to make sure you do not pull it and stretch it because it will warp and it will stay like that. I think everyone's done that somewhere down the track and you don't do it again. So I'm just going to slightly, I'm going to pull it just a little bit just to stretch it out a little so it's not buckling or anything like that. Trying to keep that tension. And then I'm just going to pop another towel on top, or in this case, it's just the other side. I'm just going to pat her down because I'm going to try and get all that excess water out. And then I'm just going to just slowly roll it. And I'm just going to add a little bit of pressure, a little bit of squeeze, because I want to get that excess water out. It's not something you can hang on the line and drip dry on the line because it'll warp. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of squeeze, give it a roll. Like that. And you can see it's all crinkled up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it dry. So I'm just going to stretch him out a little bit and make sure the tension's still there. Just like that. And I'm going to let him dry like that. So I usually let this dry overnight. And then when it's done, it's nice and dry, I will give it a quick iron. So when you, I mean, you don't have to iron it. I do, usually, just because after washing it, it kind of crinkles a little. So the most important thing is when you iron your cross stitches, whether you wash them or not, is you always iron on the back. So you flip them over and you iron it on the back. And some people use steam, some people don't. I don't know, I've done both. Doesn't really matter. Sometimes depending on the manufacturer of the threads. If you use steam, it can cause some of the water some of the dye to run. I usually use just no steam and just, iron it on the back. And the reason why you do it on the back is, number one, if you do it on the top, it will flatten your stitches. And also the other reason to do it on the back is that sometimes when you're ironing, you can have like marks on the base of your iron, and if you iron it over top of your stitches, you may get black marks across it. So I always iron it on the back. So I'm going to let this sit here, and it can just do its own thing overnight and dry, and then I will iron it, and then I will show you once it is all ironed how awesome it looks once it's all done. Okay, so all done, so it's dried, and you can see that all the ink has come off of this. I don't know if you can see it on there, but there's a tiniest little faint bit of red on the top there, which I'm fine with. I don't really care about that. I could have let it sit in there for a little bit longer, but I'm happy with the results. Anyway, I didn't bother actually ironing this. It's just got a little bit of a wrinkle there, but I don't really mind, so I haven't bothered ironing it. But it just depends on what you're sort of after. So there you go. That is how I wash my stamped cross-stitch projects. Pretty darn easy. Doesn't really take all that long. I think all up it took me about 35 minutes maybe. And you've got all that ink off, and you've got your beautiful project all finished, nice and clean. So there you go. That's how I do that. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I will catch you next time. Bye.